So today we're diving into that huge breaking news where President Xi Jinping delivered a strong message at the Global Women's Summit in Beijing. He emphasized protect every woman while pledging some serious funds, $10 million to UN Women, and laying out a $100 million fund for global women's development.
Yep, that's definitely a headline grabber. I mean, it's not every day you see such a bold humanitarian statement paired with that level of financial commitment, right?
Absolutely. And it's like he's positioning China as a global advocate for gender equality and shared progress. It's a sort of calculated vision of leadership that mixes compassion with geopolitical intent.
It's interesting, too, how he ties protecting women to broader concepts of peace and stability. I mean, how often do we see that connection made so um, explicitly in international speeches?
Yeah, it is almost like a blueprint for global solidarity, saying that harmony starts at home with protecting every woman, which then cascades into a more stable world order.
Yeah.
It's a powerful rhetorical link between domestic social policy and international diplomacy.
And that pledge of funds really stands out. $10 million to UN Women and a whopping $100 million fund. Do you think these initiatives will practically transform issues of women's development globally?
Well, it's a significant sum, yeah. I mean, on one hand, these funds could bolster programs aimed at education, healthcare, and economic empowerment for women. On the other, there's always the question of how transparent and effective a state run initiative can be. It all
Yeah.
depends on the implementation.
Right, and some might argue that the financial pledges, however large, are also a display of soft power, an effort to reshape global narrative. It's like, are we seeing genuine humanitarian reform or a strategic export of China's model of governance?
True, true, it's a balancing act. On the one hand, you have a clear humanitarian message of
Yeah,
empathy and inclusion, and on the other, there's the international political dimension, demonstrating an image of benevolence that could, well, increase China's global clout.
I think it's fascinating when global aid and international politics come together like this. It reminds me a bit of how other global players have used similar gestures to enhance their regional influence. But don't you think there's a risk of these messages being more about optics than outcome?
Definitely, and that's a fair critique. It's like a charity run where the sponsors might be more interested in the applause than the actual charitable impact.
Yeah.
When funds are announced in such grand terms, the real test is in the follow through and the measurable changes on the ground.
Exactly. And given that this announcement came during the Global Women's Summit in Beijing, the symbolic centerpiece of China's humanitarian outreach, it sort of paints a picture of a China determined to be seen as a global benefactor.
Right, right. And it's interesting to notice how the speech strings together themes of equality, compassion, and peace. It's as if protecting each woman becomes the cornerstone of broader global stability. It's a narrative that's designed to resonate on multiple levels, both domestically and internationally.
And speaking of resonance, do you think that such a large scale commitment will ignite similar actions from other countries? I mean, can this inspire a sort of global catalytic effect in terms of women's rights initiatives?
It has the potential to, yeah. It's like sparking a domino effect. But we have to be careful. While the fund size is impressive, its impact will mostly rely on the strategies for allocation and collaboration with international partners. The success might not just be in dollars, but in the effective partnerships and on ground projects it ultimately supports.
I see what you mean. There's a real challenge in bridging the gap between policy rhetoric and tangible change. In that sense, what do you think are the main hurdles that such a fund might face?
Well, one, there's often bureaucracy and red tape in managing international funds, even more so when state driven. Then there's the challenge of coordination with organizations like UN Women, which have their own priorities and methods. And beyond that, there might be
Right.
political friction if, say, these initiatives are perceived as interfering in domestic policies of recipient countries.
That's a good point. And I guess that ties back to the idea of soft power. If other nations see this as a propaganda move rather than a genuine commitment, the overall effectiveness could be undermined.
Exactly. It's like trying to build a house on sand if the foundation isn't robust. The funds and pledges, while impressive on paper, have to be supported by transparent processes and international cooperation if they are to make a lasting impact. It's a delicate balance between political image and real benefit.
And speaking of balance, this announcement ties into a broader narrative where China is increasingly showcasing its leadership through humanitarian initiatives. How do you see this affecting global geopolitics?
It's a multifaceted move. On one hand, China is asserting its position as a responsible global leader who cares about social issues. On the other hand, it sends a signal to other world powers that they too might need to up their game in terms of global aid and soft power initiatives. It's a kind of strategic repositioning in the global order.
There's also some interesting timing with this international summit. It almost feels like a counterbalance to some of the more contentious international debates going on about human rights and governance styles in various countries.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost as if China is saying, look, we're not just about economic might and territorial claims. We're about protecting the vulnerable. It's a narrative that, if done right, can move the global conversation in a more inclusive direction.
But here's where I respectfully push back a bit. Given the political context, there's always a risk that these humanitarian gestures are selectively applied. Do you think this pledge might be more symbolic than, say, a comprehensive overhaul of policies supporting women globally?
That's a valid challenge, and I think it's worth considering. While the financial figures are concrete, the measure of success will depend on consistent policy backing and action over the long term.
Yeah.
The risk is that such announcements become short-term political theater without the necessary structural reforms to back them up.
Exactly. And when we look at international relations, symbolic moves often have their limits. They need to be paired with concrete, measurable outcomes in healthcare, economic empowerment, education, and such, for real progress to occur.
Right. And let's also acknowledge that from a public relations standpoint, it's highly effective. It creates a narrative of empathy and global solidarity that can have a ripple effect in how policy is shaped both in China and among its international partners.
Yeah.
But it's the follow-through where the true test lies.
And speaking of follow-through, I'm curious, how do you think international organizations like UN Women will coordinate with China on this initiative? Will there be cross-cultural management challenges?
Oh, definitely. There are inherent challenges with cross-cultural initiatives, particularly when you have different governance styles and priorities. It's like trying to combine two different recipes into one dish. The ingredients are there, but the final flavor depends on how well they're blended. Trust, transparency, and open communication will be key here.
That's a neat analogy, like a fusion cuisine of policy and humanitarian aid. And it goes to show that beyond the numbers, it's really about the relationships and the trust built between all the stakeholders involved.
Exactly. And it might also set a precedent for future global initiatives. If this model of combining state-funded projects with international organizations shows strong positive outcomes, we might see more collaboration like this across other sectors such as education or public health. It could be a game changer if executed well.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to observe whether this move will, alter the dynamics of global aid, not just in symbolic terms, but in practical, measurable results that actually uplift women's communities worldwide.
For sure. The stakes are high, and every dollar pledged and every policy set in motion is going to be scrutinized closely. It's like stepping into a new era where international goodwill and geopolitical maneuvering blend into one complex narrative.
I think one of the biggest takeaways is that this is more than just a news headline. It's reflective of a shifting world order where global leadership is increasingly tied to humanitarian vision. And while the road ahead might be messy, it's a conversation worth having.
Absolutely. It's a promising development, but one that invites careful analysis and accountability. We're talking about an ambitious blueprint here, one that, if successful, could really impact not just China's image, but the global dialogue on women's rights as well. It's an unfolding story, and we'll have to wait and see how it evolves.
And it opens up a broader debate on how governments use soft power to craft narratives of compassion. Like you said, there are risks of it being nothing more than political theater if not followed up with structural changes.
Right on. It's definitely a double edged sword, effective if genuine, but potentially problematic if it's all just for show. The real measure will be in the tangible benefits delivered to women worldwide.
So, wrapping up our discussion, it's clear that while the pledge is inspiring on so many levels, it also comes with a set of critical challenges for transparency, effectiveness, and genuine impact. Yeah. And that's our deep dive for today. Thank you for this engaging, fast-paced chat about one of the most talked about moments on the global stage. Until next time, let's keep questioning and exploring how these big moves truly shape our world.